So, Adobe is apparently in some shit right now. It took Google's video AI and a Chinese model called Kling and wired them straight into the Premiere timeline. It's not like they added an AI video plugin. It's more like now Premiere is an AI video interface, for better or for worse. This reeks of death. The company that sold you the tool is now renting the thing that could keep it competitive with all the AI platforms out there. Instead of just being what it is, it saw the need to adapt. They chose that over death. Or maybe they just slowed down the inevitable. Hold on to your socks, because we're about to drive straight into the deep end. This is all but screaming that the era of the creative app is ending. It's just a slower and more boring death. It's getting demoted to a renter, right alongside yours truly. Adobe is getting surfed by big AI. If you look at the market, they've already figured this out. While the headlines are still asking the question, will Adobe survive? Markets are always ahead of the news cycle. On paper, Adobe is making more money than it ever has. Hell, it's hitting record revenue. It did something like $6.5 billion in a single quarter just recently. It's ranking at around $10 billion in cash each year from your subscriptions. But the stock is trading like the company's already got one foot in the grave. It's trading at around 9x the earnings. That's the number you slap on a business circle in the drain. Healthy software companies trade at 3 or 4 times that. So while the news cycle is doing a song and dance on the fence, Wall Street is already pricing in a funeral. There are other signs that the creative behemoth is losing its mojo. They just straight up killed Animate, Adobe's 2D animation tool that people built their entire careers on for 25 years. They switched it off in March and shed every Creative Cloud subscriber that was there for just that one app. The FTC hit them with a $150 million settlement for burying the cancel button so deep that you need a detective to find it. An Adobe exec literally called their cancellation fees heroin for the company. You can't make this shit up. This is all not to mention that to kick this whole thing off, they started cannibalizing their own stock photo library to sell you generative image models. It's like instead of paying for their service, you're paying for front row seats to a controlled demolition. If we take this thing to a more personal and less impressive level, I haven't opened Photoshop in many moons. I didn't cancel it just to make some statement. I just quietly stopped needing it. When I need some sort of creative tool now, I literally spin up Claude and have it make me a home-cooked app that does exactly what I want and nothing else. The benefits of that are beyond working, that it can be corrected. It's not like I can just go fix a problem I have in Adobe Suite without going through a long and rigorous process that I do not have time to go through. But when I make something myself, I just tell the agent to change something about the app, and it does. It's like Photoshop was a place I had to go and learn to live in, and having agents make me custom apps is more like having compute bend to my needs. If you caught my Apps Are Dead video, that was the business version of this one. It was the company side, and this is the human side. This is the part where your actual relationship to your tools gets flipped on its head, and it spells empowerment for some and doom for others. If you subscribe to the brand wars going on in creative spaces right now, it's all Adobe versus Figma, Figma versus Canva. Will AI replace designers? Yes, no, it's complicated. Every version of that argument takes for granted that some design app wins in the end, but nothing that's actually happening supports that. Look at what Anthropic just did. They shipped a design tool that doesn't treat AI like an afterthought forced to fit into something that already exists. It replaces the starting point itself. Adobe and Figma both assume that there's a trained designer at the wheel, whereas Anthropic assumes nothing. The model labs aren't building a better Photoshop. They're eating the reason Photoshop exists. This is the same pattern we see even in software development. Why use VS Code with a built-in agent when you can just use Claude Code directly? Type your prompt, go make a sandwich, and come back to a fully working and tested app. This brings us back to Premiere. Now you can see why the paint is chipping. Adobe looked at the model race and realized they were going to get steamrolled. Firefly is fine, but it's no VO, much less Kling or Seedance. So they made the logical choice that anyone would make in order to survive a little bit longer. They wired their competitors' models into their own damn timeline and turned Premiere into not much more than a wrapper, a ghost of its former self. It's a ghost that slaps, don't get it twisted, but a ghost nonetheless. It's just not the product anymore. The generative models are the product, and Adobe is renting them from the same people that we all rent from. But they're putting them in a fancy window display and reselling it to you. You see what's happening here? The landlord became a tenant. Adobe, the company that first sold you the tool and then made you rent the tool, is now itself renting the tool. The intelligence labs up top are the only ones really doing business here, and the rest of us now includes cornerstone businesses and apps that we've been using for decades. Now they're basically no better than that one guy who rents an apartment and then lets out a room to you for over half the cost of rent. Okay, it's not all doom and gloom. It's not all fallen apart completely yet. Most working designers still use AI just to touch things up instead of doing all the heavy lifting. About a third of them use it for core stuff, and the rest just speed up the boring parts. Figma's CEO says he's never been more bullish, and he's not wrong. The real boundary here is that the AI-coded custom tool stuff is only eating the long tail of tasks right now, even though that's growing. I'm not a creative by trade, but these videos I've been making are definitely in that realm. And you can bet your sweet ass that I didn't get an Adobe sub on top of the Claude sub that I already have in order to do this. It's a very specific type of video, so it's not like I remade the entirety of Adobe Premiere. But it did take me less time than registering for a Creative Cloud subscription to render my first video after I had this idea. So lately, I'm mainly more on this optimistic take. It's the one that I want to believe, that regular people just got more capable and we don't need Adobe's permission or Adobe's price anymore. We make our own tools now. But then I look at what Adobe did and it drives a wrecking ball through my optimism. Because if the old giant with all the money and a 25-year head start just became a renter, then where exactly does that leave me? I rent the forge, and Adobe rents the forge. It belongs to like 4 companies that already own the models, the GPUs, and even the narrative right now. Anyway, my Claude sub just renewed, and even though I'm a programmer who's been in the business almost as long as Photoshop, even though I can't fully trust the likes of Anthropic, I can't deny that it does act as a force multiplier for just getting shit done. I don't really have the answers for any of this. Is this freedom? Or was freedom knowing how to code? This could just be another chain bolted onto my arm. I don't really know yet. Am I just weird, or have you also recently stopped using some of your software because you made a version of it that fits your needs better? Let me know in the comments.